Okay, Succah Chaf Beis Amid Aleph. Rabbi Nachum, nice to see you. Chaver, ready to roll? We're going to let Aaron Stern connect his audio. Could he not hear me if he's connecting his audio?
Correct.
Thank you. This is why we employ a full-time IT team. Okay, so the camera's good today, I think. So we spoke yesterday about Dinei Oyhel. Dinei Oyhel. Just to remind yourself, the one halacha we learned yesterday, and then today we're going to start picking it up with the din of Chavut Rami. We're learning a makar for Ravah, Chavut Rami. But yesterday we learned the din of Oyel. The din of Oyel is as follows. If I have a roof, here's a roof, and under my roof I have some tumah. Here's my tumah. And under the tumah, on the other side, I have a person. This person becomes tameh. Whatever is under the same roof as the tumah holds in the tumah, and then it's going to be tameh. So that was din number one that we learned yesterday. Thank you. And we learned that if there's a plank of wood and a plank of wood, each one being a tefach, the tefach acts that it holds in the tumah. So if I have, as we saw yesterday, the two levels with the plank of wood, two levels. So now the halacha is that as long as it is a tefach, if there's tumah underneath, what it does is it transmits tumah to the person sitting there. Beautiful. And now we get to the second part of this Mishnah, which is going to teach us the din of Chavut Rami. So let's just start by reading the Mishnah. De'tinan. As we learned in the Mishnah, Kaireis habayis v'aliyah. The beams of the house and the top layer were smack in the middle of the page. First word on the line is Kaireis. Kaireis habayis v'aliyah she'ein aleihem ma'aziva. There's no plaster. And as we spoke about, what's the nekuda that there's no plaster? It means there's just beams. Ve'ein mechuvanais. And they're one on top of the other. They're mechavin. They're aligned. Toma tachas achas mehem. If we're just reviewing from yesterday's the din that we just spoke out, if there's toma underneath one of the beams, tachateha tamei. Anything else underneath that beam is tamei. Beina tachtaina le'elyoina. If there's, excuse me, where?
What's aliyah?
Aliyah is an upper level. Thank you. One more time. Like an attic. One more time. Kaireis habayis, the beams of the house. Ve'ha'aliyah, and the attic. Which basically means, if we're looking at this picture, this is going to be, the Kaireis habayis is going to be the first layer, and the aliyah is going to be the top level. Basically, that we have two levels over here. She'ein, that there is not aleihem on them ma'aziva, plaster. Ve'hein, and they are mechuvanois. They are aligned. They are lined up, one on top of the other. So now, that is the case. The din, toma tachas achas mehem. If the toma is tachas, it is underneath achas mehem, one of them, meaning underneath the plank of wood. Tachtea tameh. Anything else underneath that plank will be tameh. Next case, beina tachtoina le'elyoina. If the toma is between the bottom and the top. In our vernacular, in our English, we'd call that the tumah is in the middle. The tumah is on the second floor. Tumah is on the second floor. What is the halacha? Beina tachtoina le'elyoina. Beinehen, that which is between them, meaning on the same level, again, is going to be tameh. Al gabe ha'elyoina. If it's on top of the roof, the tumah is now sitting all the way up here on top of the roof. Then what is the halacha? Kinegda, opposite it, ad l'rakia, up until the heavens, up until Shamayim is tameh. Because the tumah goes all the way up, because there's nothing blocking it. Case A of the Mishnah, nothing to do with our sugya. Case B of the Mishnah, hayahel yoinois. If hayu, it was ha'el yoinois, the top planks, the ones all the way on top, kibein hatachtoinois, it's like in between, kibein, like between the tachtoinois, the ones on the bottom. So now we're going to look at the next picture, very important over here. to get the right. Picture's a little bit off. So I'm looking at the wrong page. Here it is. Yes, here it is. Next page. Page 80 over here. There you go. If, as you see over here, the top plank is opposite the airspace on the bottom plank. No longer are the planks aligned, but rather the top plank is opposite the airspace on the bottom. Everyone got the picture so we can put it down? Yes? Someone say yes on Zoom. Thank you. Hayu. El yoino is kibina tachtayni. So again, in our world, if this is the bottom, it's now in between. It's in between. Okay? El yoino is kibina tachtayni. It's like in between the bottom ones. So now, Toma tachtayem. If there's Toma underneath it, tachas kulon tamei. Under all of it is going to be tamei. Al gabehen, on top of it, kinegdon ad l'rakia, is going to be tamei. But from it until the heavens is going to be tamei. Now I know we are not perfectly precise in defining. Let's read a drop more. The Gemara itself is going to really fill in the details. Vitani, that vav is very important. Vitani, and we learned on it. Not utinan, not vitanya, utini Allah, and we learned on it. Meaning, what we're about to see now is explaining what the brisa was. Vitani Allah, and we learned on it. Ba'med varm. That's an akis. You gotta eat the other ones. I think they're still in the wall over there. Ba'med varm amurim beis dalet aleph. When is this applicable? Bizman, at a time. Sheyesh beinehan, sheyesh bahen tefach. If there is in it a tefach, ubeinehem, and between it, paiseach tefach, an opening of a tefach. So now we finally understand what's going on. If the top guys are a tefach, and the opening on the bottom is a tefach, so what's going to happen? The top planks are going to fall down and cover up the holes on the bottom. So if the top is a tefach and the bottom is a tefach, that's when the din that we just said, that's when the top layer falls down and it makes one level. Aval, however, ein beinayem paiseach tefach, if there's not between it the opening of a tefach, then toma tachas achas mehen. Now if there's toma underneath one of them, I know there's a lot of reading here, it's a lot of words, we'll read the whole thing and maybe we'll read it again. Toma tachas achas mehen, if there's toma underneath one of them, tachteho is tamei, underneath it is tamei, beineyan, in between it, valgabeim, is tahar. Good. Alma, what do we see? Ki is bei tefach. Ki, when is bei, there is to it tefach, a tefach. Rav Shashi will get to you in 1 second. Amrinon, we say Chavut Rami. When the top is a tefach, when the airspace is a tefach, then it could fall down, and we'll say Chavut Rami and allow it to fall. How?
Is there an end to that?
What do you mean?
It's going to keep going.
Yeah, good. So much that yesterday. That is a valid point. How far up? You know, if it's 100 feet up in the air and then there's an airspace, how far does it fall? That's a good question. But that's the raya that we say Chavut Rami. We allow it to fall. Chiles bei tefach, when it's not a tefach, lo ya'amrina Chavut Rami. We do not say Chavut Rami. Shma mi no. So now again, Rav Shashi, question.
On the beginning of this new part. So what would happen if there was a tumor not on the ground floor but on the first floor? Would you still say Chavut Rami? The bottom coir is going upwards also?
Good. So now his question he's asking is how do we cross all our T's and dot all our I's? That's his question. which I don't want to be bearing news. We might first explain that tomorrow, because I first want to, I know, yeah?
On the Chavut, picture Chavut, if the things on the top are more.
Yeah, one second. That's the same question he's asking. I want to get there in 1 minute. Everyone's asking about the actual dinim in Tumah. Let's just first make sure we have the raya. We're going to go global for a moment, and then we have to zoom back in. They're asking about the cases. Where is the Tumah? How does it work? So I purposely sort of read that a little bit faster because I want to just get the raya. We're bringing a raya to Chavut Rami. What is the concept of the Chavut Rami that we saw by us by Sukkah? Said Shmuel, if I have a 2-layer schach, said Abaya, said Ravah, even if it's very far apart, as long as the top level is a tefach, it falls down and it makes me have schach. So just to picture this for a moment, to make sure this is clear, I could have a bottom level over here, the top level, for all intents and purposes, let's put it 5 feet in the air, let's not go crazy, 5 feet up in the air, it's something like this, as long as up here it's a tefach, and there's an airspace over here of a tefach, boom, it falls down. When you're in that sukkah, we pointed this out yesterday, how much shade is there? Not a lot. Very little shade. But because when it falls, it's as if it's complete, then you have kosher schach. The raya to that is this Mishnah with Toma V'Taira. Yesterday we dealt with part A of the Mishnah, which was anytime you have something underneath an area that is a tefach, it holds in the Toma. That's what we dealt with yesterday. Today, we get a little more nitty-gritty, and everyone's asking about the Tumah Dinim, which I want to get back to, but I first want to get the Raya. What was the Raya? The Brisa said, the Mishnah said explicitly that if the top level is a tefach, and the airspace on the bottom level is a tefach. Now, whoever's thinking that's an extra detail that Ravah did not add in. Just to point out, sometimes if everything's not parallel, it messes up our brain. It's an extra detail that Ravah didn't say. All Ravah said was that the top level has to be a tefach. We're now adding in something which we're going to get to tomorrow, Mir Tashem. But what's the raya? The raya is, if the top level is a tefach, and there's an airspace of a tefach, we allow it to fall, and now it creates a roof to hold in all the tumah underneath it. Now, what about all the cases where tumah could be in different scenarios? We're going to have to still get to. Let's just read the end one more time. We'll all read it, we'll get to reading, and then tomorrow, with the beautiful pictures as over here, they play out all the different scenarios, we will get there. So one more time. There is a tefach, and between them is a tefach. If there isn't that opening, then if there's tumah underneath one of them, underneath that plank is tamei. Beinayam, in between the planks, and by the way, if you're listening carefully, we're actually answering up the question everyone was asking. In between the planks, va'al gabeyam is tahar. Alma, what do we see? Ki is beitafach, we amrinon, we say Chavut Rami. Ki less beitafach, when there's not a tefach, loy amrina Chavut Rami. Shema amrina. We're going to stop over here so everyone can do a chazar on the reading. And tomorrow, I know we're not perfectly clear on all the dinim of Tumah V'Taira, but let's leave that for tomorrow so at least we get clarity step by step.